It's resulted in a death already, and will result in more.
Is that the bigger issue for you, that local issue between that hospital and your community?
It is a big issue. The NAACP has filed a Title VI complaint against Vidant Health. The reason I stand here today is because we have a crisis in our country today with rural health care. There are hospitals closing all over the country. More hospitals have closed in the last year than the previous 15 years. That's a problem. When a hospital closes, that means people have farther to go for emergency care, which means people die that wouldn't have died before. And that's a problem. Of all the things that our legislators work on, I don't know how many things they work on that are more important than keeping hospitals open. It seems like some of our legislators that can't put life above politics. The politics people are digging in an issue they need to let go. When you talk about Medicaid expansion, I'll talk about that briefly. In North Carolina, there's about 500,000 people that will be covered if Medicaid expansion took place. For example, there's a lady around Raleigh, 25-year-old, has got cervical cancer, and she can't get the treatment she needs. The lady's going to die. That's not okay. And I think if you go ask people across our country if they think that lady should die because she can't afford health insurance, I think you can get about 90% no, she should have some health insurance. So I think this issue is being framed in a way that people don't totally understand what we're talking about. So when it comes to Medicaid, I have had a hard time with my fellow Republicans understanding why they won't accept it. For the next 2 years, the federal government will pay 100% of the cost of Medicaid expansion. Now, you can opt out at any time. Well, I don't understand why we can't give people the insurance that we're paying for. North Carolina's already paying taxes for this, about $2 billion that's going to other states. Why can't we keep our money and insure 500,000 people for 2 years? And then if the federal government doesn't come through with the reimbursements in the future like they say, you can opt out of it at any time. The fact is, there isn't an argument against this. I have stood in front of many groups and talked about this. Nobody has taken me on. And I think the reason is because there's not really a defensible position. So I'm really hopeful that Republicans all across the country will start coming together and saying that we need to move on this. And we need to make sure people have health care. It's like Social Security. When it came out, it was very controversial. Very controversial. Well, it didn't. The country is still here. We're still okay. And I think we can have health care in the United States and still have a country here. The next thing I want to talk about is extremely important is the issue of large health care conglomerates buying up smaller hospitals and then consolidating. That is a disaster for health care in this country. In Belhaven, we had a little hospital that was run by a community board. The community board, of course, knew everybody working at the hospital. So the hospital got kind of bloated. It was wasting money. They went to a local conglomerate healthcare called Vidant Health in Greenville, North Carolina. So Vidant Health was approached about taking over our hospital. So they came down and took over our hospital. They got $1 million more in assets than they took over in liabilities. So basically, we gave them $1 million to take our hospital over. They signed a contract saying they were going to maintain and strengthen our hospital. So the whole community was very happy because now our healthcare future was in the hands of these people that had all these resources. Well, in short order, in 2 years, I was sitting in my office one day and I got a phone call from WITN TV. They said, "Mayor, can we get a comment on your hospital closing?" Nobody talked to anybody in the community, and now they're going to close our hospital. I tried to get up with Vidant, tried to get up with some of their leadership. They wouldn't even talk to me. So we held a rally of about 300 people. Then they decided to talk to me. And talking to me was just telling me what they were going to do. Well, see, in our little town of 1,780 people, that hospital is the biggest employer. And economically, it is our most important asset. We are a retirement community, so people move there for retirement. It's a waterfront community. Well, retirees don't go to communities that don't have hospitals. So they're talking about taking our emergency room, our hospital out, but also our future out. And that big conglomerate could care less. Let me explain this to you. This nonprofit in 2012 made $127 million. In 2013, they made $109 million. They have $550 million of reserves. Our little hospital lost $1.2 million due to their horrible management. They had a manager at our hospital a half a day a week. A half a day a week, tried to run a hospital, run it a half a day a week. Our hospital lost $1.2 million. They made $109 million in 2013, and they closed not just a hospital, a critical access hospital.
Emergency room.
So now people have to go 80, 90 miles to get to the emergency room. We just had Portia Gibbs pass away, 48-year-old, mother of 3, wife. She had chest pains. Well, her husband took her to the paramedic station in Swan Quarter, which is about 30 miles from Belhaven. In the past, what would have happened was they gave her some nitroglycerin, shot her to Belhaven. In 30 minutes, she would have been in the hands of an ER doctor with all the tools and medicines that he has. Instead, there wasn't an emergency room in Belhaven. So they called a helicopter. The helicopter took an hour to get there. As the helicopter was landing, she expired.
She died right there.
With 15 minutes before that, she was conscious and talking. Now, could the ER doctor have saved her? Probably. They've saved thousands of lives at our emergency room. But those lives won't be saved anymore. Now when you go to our hospital and you go to the emergency room, you look on the wall, whereas before if you had a baby in your hands that wasn't bleeding, you could have took them right in the emergency room. Now it says for emergencies, call 911.
Call 911 if you have an emergency.
If you have a non-emergency, go to the clinic. So once again, everybody's a half an hour away. There's a study been done about heart attacks. For every 10 miles you have to travel with a heart attack, it's an increase 10% in the chance you're going to die. Well, everybody in our community got an extra 30% tacked on to having a heart attack and dying. Everybody. Now these are mamas, daddies, grandmamas, granddaddies, little kids. It's not just some old 90-year-old man who's led a full life who's dying. It's mothers. It's people that have a lot to do here on this earth right now. So it's a tragic situation. One of the things I'm asking for, and one of the reasons I want to meet with the president, is because I want to ask them to push a bill that will make it so that critical access hospitals cannot be closed without the Health and Human Services Secretary signing off on it.
Yeah.
These big conglomerates should not be allowed to use their business plan and take away hospitals that mean life and death in a big way. Because these critical access hospitals are put in areas where the geography makes it such that it's a widely dispersed population, but there's a need there. That's why they were put there. These critical access hospitals were created back with the an act in the 1940s, the Hill-Burton Act. And that was where Democrats and Republicans came together and saw a need for rural health care. And Democrats and Republicans worked together to establish these critical access hospitals. Well, that's what needs to happen today. Democrats and Republicans need to lay down the politics and need to start working together about this. Because our families, our friends, are going to start having more deaths than they would have otherwise. And we're talking about deaths. It's irresponsible to let politics get in the way of saving lives. The other thing I want to do is I want to see that there be at least a 1-year period where towns have a chance to take their hospitals back. This big conglomerate, Vidant Health, the NAACP filed a Title VI complaint on them, basically for discrimination. Vidant Health then went to mediation with us. Now this is the typical story of the big mean company that's going to just squash you. That's who Vidant Health is. They're bad. The leadership is bad. The people working there are probably fantastic. The leadership is bad. I have no reservation in saying that at all. And let me tell you why. We went to the U.S. Justice Department sponsored mediation between the town and Vidant. We reached a mediation agreement. When we reached the agreement, the first line of the agreement for Vidant's duties said, Vidant will transfer all tangible assets of the hospital to the new community organized board. Vidant came about a month into the mediation extension of 3 months. About 1 month in, they came up and said, you know what, cash on hand of the corporation, accounts receivable, your medical record software, that's not assets of the hospital.
They would take those.
A first-year accounting student in college knows that's assets of the hospital. Then they also delayed papers to us. We've got proof of them holding papers for 2 weeks trying to slow us up. And then we've got situations where when we did get data, it came in a data dump that had so much stuff it took days to figure out what they gave us. So they played games with us, dirty tricks with us, trying to make sure we don't get our hospital back. Because they want our hospital closed so they can kill those expenses and send all those people to this hospital over here. And also with that 30 miles, a lot of people who are uninsured won't be able to make that trip.
So it saves them money. in the emergency room.
It's a shame. It's a shame what is going on here. And it's wrong. HHS is now investigating Vidant. And what we want to do is put as much sunlight and much spotlight as we can on this issue, so that when HHS with the Department of Justice gets into this, that they'll feel very comfortable in doing what they have to do. We've got to have a hospital where we are. And all the rural communities across this country need to be stepping up and saying something about it, because sooner or later it's going to come to you. The Medicaid expansion issue is this. These critical access hospitals fight to break even every year. Well, any revenues you take away from them puts them in the hole, because most critical access hospitals don't break even each year. So it hurts. And that's why Medicaid expansion is important. I said in the speech to the governor of North Carolina, if you're not going to take Medicaid expansion, you need to have a plan for these rural hospitals. Because what's happening is indigent care, people who can't pay the reimbursements are falling, and Medicaid expansion was to pick that up, was to offset that. Well, if you don't have Medicaid expansion, you don't have those extra revenues, and you've got your reimbursements for indigent care falling. It's a recipe for disaster. So we all need to work together. We all need to contact our representatives and let them know that we've got to do something about it, that people are going to die. And once again, this is a terrific opportunity for Democrats and Republicans to work together and figure something out. I'll point this out. I hope it don't make Bob mad. I just told you he's a radical. Well, I've walked with him now for 9 days, and we disagree on most everything.
We agree on a lot too.
But this is an issue we all can agree. Nobody wants a grandmother to die when she didn't have to die. Nobody wants your little girl to die when she didn't have to die. So we've got to get past this politics. We got to get out of where we're dug in, and we got to start working together on this, because these rural hospitals have to survive. And if we don't do something, the big companies, those big mean companies like Vidant Health, are going to take our hospitals down one after another, and we need to stop it. So that's what I'm going to be talking to, I hope, President Obama about, Eric Holder about our situation, the HHS Secretary Burwell. We're going to be talking to them, trying to get them to see that this is important. Believe you me, I do not need to be walking to Washington, D.C. I don't think I've lost any weight. I think I've eaten so much. So everybody says, you're going to lose weight. I was like, I can't. I need to lose some weight.
We're getting shorter, though.
Yeah. But anyway, it's been a terrific trip. But it's something that's got to be done. I'm doing this, and all of you need to make some phone calls.
I want to hear from Bob Zellner. Tell us about your adventure.
You're an agitator. That's what you are. You're a radical. I grew up in L.A. in Lower Alabama. My daddy was in the Ku Klux Klan. My granddaddy was in the Ku Klux Klan. But a miracle occurred, and I met Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King when I was a college student in Montgomery, Alabama in 1959. I met Mrs. Rosa Parks, and they started me on a life of crime. I joined SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and I was in the middle of 50 years ago, Freedom Summer in Mississippi. We were fighting for the same things 50 years ago in Mississippi that the mayor is walking for today. And I'm with the mayor today because in those days we had 2 solitary marches. James Meredith was marching alone. He was shot. He survived. William Moore, a postman from Baltimore, Maryland, was marching alone in my home state of Alabama. He was shot and killed. So I do not want the mayor to walk any of this 273 miles by himself. He's being joined by people from all over the country now. And as we've met with the governor today, and we've admired him from afar, we admired him close up today, and his wife. We appreciated very much meeting with them. And it shows that when little people get together and do big things happen. So this mayor is making big things happen. He's a white Southerner like I am. And unlike me, he's a Republican. But as a white Southerner, Republican mayor of a small North Carolina town, he's able to do more than many civil rights workers are able to do. He's in the center of the civil rights and human rights movement right now, and all people of goodwill from around the country should support him and this issue. I work with Reverend Barber and the Moral Mondays movement in North Carolina. They're showing the way of how to get people together. The mayor has been in the center of that. The little town of Belhaven, North Carolina, is a beacon of hope, as also the North Carolina movement is, and all of you today. Your heart is in the right place. We love you. Thank you for being here.